Hey y'all, it is November, actually the 29th, 2019, and real briefly I just want to say it's very tough for me to know what the heck the date is. If it seems like I'm messing with y'all, I'm not, alright? But I realize now that it's November the 29th, 2019, and y'all, we're just going to dive right into it and stuff. Typically we have a little segue, a little music. I'm not sure if we could do it. We might could do it, but I'm kind of chomping at the bit a little bit, y'all. I want to kind of dive into things. I don't know if this can even wait. All right, there's gonna be people coming into the broadcast. Um, Surely we're gonna find one or two stragglers, and see how long we can keep them entertained around here. Thing is, we're about to dive into some stuff, kind of willy nilly. We're not exactly completely organized yet, but we have more than enough material. All right. Um, the first thing that I wanted to discuss is actually showcased there in the title of this broadcast. It's a lady by the name of Carla Faith. I do believe that we're on an article, a recent article pertaining to that whole situation. You might recall. I don't know if you've seen it in the news or if you've seen me talking about it. But we're going to continue a little bit down this rabbit hole. First thing is that we experience this all over the top. For those who are not familiar, this particular situation seems like it could be more wild than our wildest imaginations. All right, so we've been covering it, I don't know, over the course of 2 or 3 weeks, something like that. I'm not very good with dates, but about that amount of time has gone by. I wanted to see what was breaking. And so therefore I asked Google what's popping in the streets. And they told me, they brought me to this article right here. This is the headline. I forget exactly what's the news, KOOA or KOAA over there in somewheresville by Eric Ross. All right. And the headline says this. Woman accused of running illegal daycare and hiding kids behind a false wall has a lengthy history. Now, actually, on this channel, subsequent videos, thing is, we've already discussed that it is quite lengthy, the history of Carla Faith. Meanwhile, I'm going to scroll through my screenshots, in which I do have a lot, in which we are going to go through rapid fire later on this broadcast, all right? For those of y'all who like that sort of thing, oh man, we're going to do that sort of thing. But I wanted to find a particular picture of Carla Faith, the lady in question. We're about to discuss some of her behaviors. And the fact is, we kind of could see this coming. Dang, there's a lot of screenshots, y'all. I don't know if we're going to have time for all this. All right. I don't know if we can knock all this out, but we're going to try so hard. The thing is, I wanted to take a look at this picture. We already seen this picture. Let me see if I can make it bigger. All right, check that out. That's the picture. She looks like a leprechaun. This looks like St. Patty's Day, people carrying on. This is a supposed lady who runs all sort of daycare facilities. And as we're going to see, as we've seen before, some aren't exactly licensed and definitely not licensed to have enough children as she actually was taking care of. All sort of children, not registered. It's not legal, highly illegal. This lady, she was known around the community of Colorado Springs, from what I understand, part of it, in which she was giving out all sort of child care, in which is kind of in limited supply in Colorado in general, from what I understand. I don't know how many places that applies to, but I've seen articles about it. All right, Carla Faith is up in here, and she only has one picture of herself. And think about that. I mean, whether it's a fake news or whether or not this is a wild story of epic proportions, we're about to get into it. But this is only one picture of this lady. And all, I mean, we're talking about, this is 2019. You run daycare facilities. We're only going to find one picture of you, and you look like a leprechaun. And that's the only picture that's going to get, that exists, that's going to get leaked. Nobody leaked any other pictures of this lady. All right. And isn't it quite interesting? I noticed somebody slipped up in the building. All right. I appreciate you. Feel free to fire at will and stuff. I'm going to check you out in the comments in a second. But right now, we're still going over the first thing that we went over, and that's Carla Faith. Here today, that's the first thing I want to talk about. That's why I put her up in the title. It's this lady right here. She looks like a leprechaun, right? And I can assure you, as far as I could tell, I haven't seen one other picture of this lady across the internet. Not one, not one. And she was supposedly, allegedly, a daycare provider of all sorts, like had all sort of buildings. And there had to be a lot of parents who have met this lady. All right, but as mysterious as this story is, it's only one picture of her. And isn't that quite curious? That being said, we're actually going to dive into an article and stuff. I wanted to go ahead and see if we can get our brains to working, see if we can read. Unwrapped by Brenda's up in the building, co-hosting this show, whether she likes it or not. She's about to tell us what's going on. Feel free, like I said, fire at will. Brenda, we're about to just dive into some stuff, and Lord knows we need a little bit of help. But I wanted to read this article. It's about Carla Faith, like we already established, like we probably already knew. Over there in Colorado Springs, all sort of facilities. No pictures except one. She looks like a leprechaun. St. Patty's Day. Isn't that odd? Okay. And then now we're going to read this article. The thing is, I'm not going to venture to say, oh yeah, I think it's fake, or oh yeah, I think it's real. I really don't think it's my place. The thing is, I think we're going to see all sort of details. They're going to be very typical and very telling. All right, I think it's going to be something worth noting. All right, and studying and analyzing. That's why we're doing it. All right, so Brenda, I don't know if you've seen this article, but check this out. We're just going to read it real quick. Woman accused of running, like I said, illegal daycares and hiding kids behind a false wall has a lengthy history. And like I said, we went over much of this history. We didn't even go over it all because she had other prior history in California for doing similar things. All right, so the man, Eric Ross, he's going to tell us, he's going to lay it down. And it's not too long of an article. That's why I wanted to go over it. So it's not going to be too long. But News 5 investigates and has obtained troubling new information about Carla M. Faith. All right. The Colorado Springs woman accused of running an illegal daycare and hiding children in a basement behind a false wall. If we leave it at that right there, that should be like sensational. That should be what everybody's talking about in the nation. And of course they're not. Not to blame them. It's just it's not getting hyped up, of course, in the news. It's being swept under the rug. You gotta ask yourself why. All right. So since 2015, Play Mountain Place and Centerpoint Preschool racked up 77 violations. All right. That's what, a 3-4 year period? 77. Also, the violations and allegations, we went over some of them on this previous videos. Previous complaints had been filed. Colorado Department of Human Services, CDHS, alleging Faith was caring for children, and then she was allowed to have under the license. She was caring for more children or something. I don't know. More children, but it wasn't until dozens of children were found hidden from police and state licensing specialists that both places were shut down. Right. So mind you, we've already gone all over this. It seems, at least to me, from what I've seen, that of course, you got secret houses, secret basements, and then you have totally legit facilities, preschools to include this Centerpoint building, in which nobody's questioning whether or not that school is legit or anything crazy was happening at that school. It seems like that school in and of itself was a front for some perhaps weird, wild stuff going on in a secret basement, all right, just down the street. And we're going to get into a little bit of the details, but I wanted to go ahead and just read the rest of this article, see what they got to tell us, because it is going to be a little bit wild if you haven't heard some of these updates. All right, this article, I believe, was written about a week ago. All right, so that just gives you an idea of how frequently they even like talking about this, how sensational it is. People aren't hardly keeping up with it. On November the 13th, the CDHS enlisted the help of law enforcement. While waiting for law enforcement and conducting surveillance, the licensing specialist witnessed Carla Faith arrive at the property that had both licensed child care, home, blah, 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 and Williamette, an unlicensed cottage. An unlicensed cottage, if that just sounds ominous. Records show Faith also owned a property next door on William Ave. All right, so it's kind of convenient. Certain buildings are next door to other buildings. Certain buildings have licensing, and certain buildings have this amount of licensing. And there's this. I mean, it's very convenient. Here's what caught my eye, and the thing is, if you click on this right here, it says Faith jumped a fence to elude licensing specialist. Records show, and and if you're wondering about that, you can click on that and it's going to show a police report and stuff like detailing all what happened. And I already read it, and the thing is, it's talking about, okay, when the specialist showed up and they're about to investigate, see what the heck's going on. They've heard some complaints. They show up to the property, and Carla Faith just dips out at that very moment. All right, without saying a word, basically goes to her car and dips out. If that seems suspicious to anybody. And then she winds up showing back up, and I guess she noticed that the people were waiting out front for her to ask her questions. She is the provider of multiple daycare facilities, and what she does is she actually, and it says in the police report, she drives up down the ditch in the back of the I guess facility, drives up into the ditch and jumps the fence. To get in her own back door. Like, I mean, this could all be fake, entirely fake. But that's exactly what it says in the police report. And if that doesn't seem kind of suspicious, it's like, isn't that weird and wild? Isn't that a wild turn of events? So law enforcement came on the property, but Faith would not open the gates to allow police to enter. Shout out to the second person up in the building. I see both of y'all, and I'm about to go up into the comments, and I expect to see y'all both representing. All right, and I appreciate y'all. But this isn't a very long article, so we're going to get down to the bottom of it. Carla Faith is jumping fences to elude questioning of any sort from anybody. And that's kind of interesting. Law enforcement came to the property, but Faith would not open the gates to allow police to enter. Oh, that's interesting. The suspension summary report said once law enforcement and the licensing specialist gained access to the property, they could hear loud music and children crying. Okay. Officers and licensing specialists later found 2 dozen children, behind a hidden wall. A little over 2 dozen children, 26 toddler-aged children, did not appear fed, and their diapers did not appear to have been changed all day. The report said Faith's license also allows. See what's? They always interject this, and honestly, I take offense to this. They could have mentioned it some other time, but they say Faith's license only allows her to care for 6 children at her home daycare. Thing is, that's a little bit beside the point, I feel. I mean, it's kind of a nuance that should be mentioned at another time, to be honest. Because who even cares with what you're talking about? Oh, if it's between 26 and 6, oh, it's like, why even mention it? She had a license for 6. It's not like she went over a little bit and didn't realize she was doing it. Obviously, this is a person who's doing it purposefully and jumping fences to elude questions, according to y'all, and police reports. All right, so that's pretty much, I don't know, that looks a certain kind of way, and we're going to finish out this article. There were also allegations that she was hiding children at another property that she owns on Franklin Street. Investigators ordered that she cease daycare operations, including preschool services at Centerpoint, which was, like I said, like a legit preschool type of building located at 611 North Royer Street. Documented violations at Play Mountain Place and Centerpoint schools. I guess you could click on that, or I don't know if you can click on it, but it says inspection summary reports for both facilities can be found here. And I guess you could click on it, but I think we get the gist, all right? While some violations were minor in nature, the serious ones raised questions over how Faith's businesses were allowed to operate. And I wanted to get to that point. I think that's a very key note. I think this person worded it in just the right way when they say that Faith's business, her businesses, were allowed to operate. That's something to dwell upon. There's no way in the world that she pulled this off like she's doing it rogue and nobody's noticing in the government. All right, she's definitely been allowed. It's been allowed for her to do all these things for many years. Amongst allegations and all that sort of stuff, it's been allowed for her to do this. And that's what I wanted to point it out specifically. It's being allowed for her to save face, and then that, they're not going to talk about this on CNN and those type of places. At Centerpoint School, the state documented problems with not having enough staff for the number of children present. They also said some staff members were not paying attention to the children, but what may be more concerning is the fact that some staff didn't have criminal background checks performed. Of course, you wouldn't. As for Play Mountain Place, licensing specialists said some staff members were not qualified to work with the children, and some never had background checks conducted. Faith also refused to allow state workers to inspect the entire property and refused to cooperate with law enforcement investigators who were called to check for the welfare of the children in her care. All right, it's not the end, but we're close to the end right here. We're at the 10-yard line. She was arrested earlier this month, but later released while a formal investigation continues. Now, I don't doubt that there's some sort of investigation going on, and I understand that it takes a long time. For people with no patience, they're going to lose their patience when it comes to these sort of things. All right, I trust there's some sort of investigation going on, but it's already very wild, and I don't think it's going to go anywhere, and that's pretty unacceptable. This is a developing story and will be updated as new information becomes available, I'm sure. I bet you we're not going to have to dig for it. As far as Carla Faith and her mysteriousness, previous coverage of the story can be found here, and I'm sure it can. All right. Thing is, I think we got some juicy morsels on that. We really got some stuff to dwell upon, just in that story alone, right there. And we're gonna continue to stay updated on it and all the mysteriousness of it. And as I read these comments, I just want to say, it stands to reason. I have a theory, and I want to know. It's going to be a part of the investigation. Okay, there's secret basements, right? They're in a place that's got basements. It's not many basements in San Antonio, for various reasons. It's hard rock underneath, I guess. It's hard to do it. The thing is, they got secret basements. It probably has secret tunnels. I want to know about that. I want to know about that. You might think, oh, well, I'm a wild conspiracy theorist. No, I want to know about it. And I would imagine the people who are so-called investigating this thing would have heard of secret tunnels before. I mean, just when you're thinking about that, there's different various properties that are up and down the street from each other, right? How you could take children from one building to another building, and for what various reasons that you might be doing that. And of course, if you were doing that, of course, there's somebody allowing you to do that, because you're not going to you're not going to dig all these secret tunnels up and down the street without people knowing about it. All right, it's going to be allowed for. And that's what's wild. But on the comment section, we got Brenda. She said, glad you're having a live tonight. Thank you, man. I'm glad that you're here, especially Brenda. You're my favorite co-host, I think, up to this point. All right, so you keep it up. I appreciate you. Let's see what else. Also, I think it's from Brenda as well. She said, what's so strange to me? All right, let's get into this. She said, what's so strange to me is the parents that were interviewed were so chill about it, suspiciously calm, and extreme naive parents. Okay, and I wanted to talk about that. It's just my theories, right? But think about this, hypothetically, all right? We got Carla Faith, and she's been operating this way since the 90s, maybe the early 90s, in California and places like this. Let's think about this. In California in the early 90s, all right? Does there happen to be some sort of social bias in that particular area? Could they be described a certain kind of way? Could you refer to a lot of those people in that particular area in that time to be left wing, ultra left wing? All right. So she gets caught up for all these violations, right? And then she winds up just moving out of town. And as it were, I guess, I don't know, the communication in place between states as far as daycare facilities making extreme violations, they don't have much communication between them at all. There's no sort of organized system that could have them communicating back and forth. And this is a person who's running wild and running rogue daycare facilities, violating all sort of laws and stuff. They don't communicate, basically, is what happened. Carla Faith then goes to Colorado. Think about this. Would some people, I'm asking, Would some people refer to Colorado Springs as a lot of left-wing people around in that area? Is that a common denominator? Is that a common denominator? And if it is, does that have anything to do with how some of these parents got interviewed? And yeah, I saw them. I saw a number of them who were like playing it down. As far as the wildness, as far as the mystery involved in this, playing it down and thinking and saying literally coming out and being like, we shouldn't jump to conclusions, you guys, and it's not as wild as you probably might think it is when you first hear about it. Yeah. Is there some sort of correlation between the left wing type people living in that specific area and having their children run roughshod all over and basically put in secret basements? And like, see, that's the thing about it. You got to receive your child at the end of the day, hypothetically, in these situations on your daycare routine and stuff. You receive your child, and how does your child feel? I mean, how does your child, do they look like they've been starved all day? Do they look all worn out and tired and exhausted when they come home? Like, do they look all frazzled? Do they have rashes because they're not being changed? And this is being well documented that they're just not even being changed all day and not fed all day. Shouldn't they have rashes and things of this nature? Shouldn't that be red flags all over the place? How is this being participated in from the parent standpoint? And to be fair, I've seen a couple different testimonials from parents who were really disturbed by this, really starting to just even barely grasp the wild things that could possibly have happened to toddlers in a secret basement. All right, and could there perhaps be tunnels? That's what I want to know. All right, amongst other things, I believe we got one more comment from Unwrapped Brenda. She said, "Oh yeah, there are barely any basements out here in Colorado." Is that so? Is that so? I mean, I know that Colorado is kind of a big place. All right. We heard the first time I heard and got inspired to talk about this case was from the man Joe Green, and he lives somewhere in the vicinity, if I understand correctly, Colorado Springs, somewhere in that general area, and so he would know about it, and that's why he brought it up. All right. And so it makes me wonder, are basements in Colorado kind of rare? Are basements in Colorado Springs kind of rare? Because I can tell you that basements in San Antonio are fairly rare. There's people who have them. It's fairly rare, right? I think it takes a good amount of money in order to establish that. And also, we don't exactly have tornadoes very much, so people aren't exactly worried about that sort of thing. All right. All sort of questions. I think we're getting down to the bottom of the nitty gritty, whether the news likes it or not, y'all. I wanted to jump to the next thing just to keep it rolling. I forget exactly where I put it. As far as I want to say, it's right here in Google. Talking about Parkland, I wanted to bring that up. That's actually also in the title of this video. Shout out to the third person up in the building. I see y'all out there. I appreciate y'all. Brenda's co-hosting right now, but for the other couple of people up in the building, feel free to interject and let us know. We just got done talking about Carla Faith and that whole Colorado Springs secret wall, secret basement full of toddlers and stuff like that, and how that could be wild, and that could be a wild ride that we're about to go down. Um, you know, but we already just talked about that. Now we're actually talking about Parkland. Real quick, it's nothing very much. All right, and I gotta admit, I'm not exactly following Parkland as close as I would want to sometimes. All right, but there's a lot of things to keep up with, and so I find that Parkland, it'll pop up if you check on it maybe once or twice or three times a week. You're gonna find something new. All right, and that's very interesting because, of course, with all these situations that we're talking about, take the daycare thing in particular. We're only a couple of weeks out, 2 or 3 weeks out, and yet still you get updates about it, which should be a wildly sensational story. You get updates maybe once a week, all right? And in the coming months, you're going to hear about it even less, far less, all right? And then there's more individual, less sensational stories, which do involve, say, child abuse of an extreme nature, and the same thing goes, all right? And there's going to be, like I said, stories that are bad, maybe mass shootings and stuff, but they're not going to talk about it very much. And when you try to keep up with all these different cases, you'll notice the frequency at which they're brought up as far as on a national scene, even though it's very sensational, right? And you'll notice that Parkland remains very strong. As far as people in Parkland, as we've discussed many times over, they're wildly unpopular. They're the most boring people you'll ever want to see. Some of them are fat and sweaty. And, you could say that's bullying. And certainly a lot of people would say it's bullying. But it's like, dude, would you stop sweating so much and doing gross things and talking in all sort of ways? Very um, highly esteemed ways upon yourselves. And the thing is, thinking you're also necessary, I guess, to molding society, like y'all are the future. I don't want to get too far into it, but we've seen this sort of thing, and it's just still prevalent. These people are not sensational, and yet still, um, I'm sure that there's a number of different people that this could be referring to. But as far as Alexa Midnick, shout out to Alexa Midnick. Still, that's a very sensational person. At least for a few weeks, we would like to know where she's at, what she's doing, what is she saying now? Why did she say what she said back then? How come everybody's playing it off like she's not Meadow Pollock's best friend? All right. Me personally, there's a lot of different strings that I would like to pull on, but that string in particular, I feel that cuts straight to the heart of the matter. All right. And certainly, there's a lot of people lying, but I don't know how many people are lying when it comes to Parkland. All right. And so I'm still steady keeping an eye on it. I don't know about y'all, but here's some updates that I've seen. These are the freshest updates on Google 13 hours ago. That's pretty well breaking. Parkland shooter should rot in jail, says victim's dad. That's the victim's dad opinion. And I'm not sure what victim's dad they're talking about. And I'm not even sure why he's saying that necessarily, but I do have some sort of idea, and I want to share that with y'all real quick. Let me know y'all theories, what exactly might be going on as far as these little updates that we're seeing right here. And I'm going to check you out in the comments in a second, but I just want to read this out real quick because I don't know what they're talking about. I haven't read this yet. Parkland parent, drop death penalty for shooter. Let him rot in jail. This is an opinion piece, and I don't know if it's written by, it says it's by Michael B. Shulman. I think that is a professional writer, I guess, writing the article. I don't think that's a parent necessarily, but it's a writer, and he's writing this. He says on February 14th, 2018, my son, Scott J. Beagle. Oh, okay, that is a person. It's his son. What did it say his name was? Hold on one second. I want to see this real quick. Michael B. Shulman. Okay, Michael B. Shulman. He's the one writing this. All right? And this is just breaking news. Like, I haven't seen this. It's talking about Scott J. Beagle, and y'all might remember, y'all might recall. He's the fella on the third floor, and God bless him. He did his best. He was on the third floor, and unfortunately, he lost his life on the third floor, and he was a teacher. And I guess there's things that could be said about him, but basically that's who he was. He was a teacher, and he lost his life on the third floor. This is his father. And I'll make note, nothing against Scott J. Beagle. I have nothing against him. I don't hate anybody in the world, but especially not Scott J. Beagle. You got his father, and they don't have the same last name. That's kind of interesting. I remember, if I recall, hearing from Scott J. Beagle's mother a long time ago. All right. And it doesn't mean anything necessarily, but I do recall not hearing from his father. All right. That doesn't mean anything necessarily, but I just thought that we would note that. Not hearing from his father, then come to find out here's his father who does not have the same last name, and that's all right. There's nothing against that. I just wanted to note that. But it says Scott J. Beagle was murdered by active shooter at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland. I'll never bring myself to say or type the shooter's name. I wish the news media would do the same. It's kind of interesting because there's a request. He's saying it, and it's kind of interesting and ironic, don't y'all think? That he's actually on the Sun Sentinel. It's a Pulitzer Prize winning publication, mainly in large part due to their coverage of this incident in particular. Meanwhile, they probably said the name of Nicholas Cruz infinity times, all right? And they're winning all sort of prizes for it. It's certainly they're getting paid off of it, certainly. And you're on their publication talking about that you wish that they wouldn't do it. You're writing a article for these people who are doing it. They're doing it the most. And you went directly to them and wrote an article for them. And then you complain that people were doing it. Unfortunately, and I gotta say, for those who get emotional about things, um, due process, that's the thing about it, it's supposed to go standard for everybody, despite people's emotions and how you might emotionally feel about it. All right, so he's gonna get in there. He's like, dude, I'm not even gonna say his name because we don't even know. Just we're about to see what he's gonna say, but obviously he's probably gonna say something pretty nasty. All right, he feels wronged by the alleged shooter. He says, my life and the life of Scott's mother, who I guess you're not with her, I would imagine, Linda Schulman. What? Linda Schulman? All right, okay, I'm not understanding this. Wait, his mother, Linda Schulman, and um, your name is Schulman? What? Michael B. Schulman. Okay, that's your name. Am I tripping? Ah, gosh, I must be tripping. His name is Scott J. Beagle. What does that even mean? Where'd he get that name from? Oh man, now I'm totally confused. See, we shouldn't have done this on the fly, dude. My head is a pretzel right now. That's amazing. What? My life and the life of Scott's mother, Linda Schulman, have been forever altered. What is he talking about? What does that even mean? Like, I'm gonna check the comments. I don't know. I don't know if y'all know what he's talking about. Unwrapped by Brandon says this. I moved here from Ohio, and I was surprised that no one had basements, but I'm almost 200 miles from Colorado Springs, so almost 200 miles. In Texas terms, that doesn't even seem like very much, to be honest. I don't know if that's a lot in Colorado. But 200 miles, that seems very like, you would know kind of probably for the most part what's going down. You notice there wasn't very many basements, and in Ohio, I don't know if I'm mistaken, but in Ohio, you're more prone to having, say, tornadoes or something like that. Or maybe you have more use for basements. Maybe it gets very cold and stuff over in these places. I'm sure it gets cold in Colorado. We're talking about that, that seems kind of peculiar. And I think it's peculiar enough to be investigated, all right? I understand that it takes time, right? And I personally prefer due process. We're talking about this, for example, in which this guy, he's going to be totally against due process, all right? From an emotional standpoint, for whatever reason, he's about to express all this. And I want to know. The thing is, yeah, I know it's going to take time to investigate that. I think we all have that sort of patience to just wait it out and see what's going to happen. However, we do notice that things are swept up under the rug, all right? We do notice that. And then, like, certain things just ain't talked about, even though they should be talked about. We're going to see we're not going to probably read this whole article, all right? I don't know if we have that much patience, but I did want to read a little bit more. This is from Mr. Shulman. He said, that being said, I read the November 24th Sun Sentinel editorial. Delay the Nicholas Cruz trial to accept his plea. And could not agree more. I'm not familiar with that article. I didn't see that. I don't know about y'all, but it said to put the students and faculty through the trauma of reliving the horrible day is cruel and unnecessary. Now this, in a subtle way, is kind of a slap in everybody's face and a complete utter mockery. I gotta just stress that, and I want to dwell upon that for a second. This paragraph alone, if you take this paragraph by itself, that is a slap in everybody's face at the same time. And it might not seem like it, but like, for example, the last sentence, he says to put the students and faculty through the trauma of reliving that horrible day. Okay, first of all, it's supposed to be some sort of due process. All right, we understand that, yeah, if there was a death penalty case, all sort of evidence would have to be shown. We realize their evidence is laughable at best, all right? What they shared with us over the public forum, of course, that's bad. But he's saying, it's like, and I've heard a lot of people express this who are victims or family members of victims. They say, we can't do this death penalty trial stuff because we're going to have to relive this traumatic experience, and that's going to be too painful for us. We have too much emotions in order to even get through this. even though that's what due process calls for right now, and it's the very best that we can provide right now. It should be a lot better and a lot more streamlined for sure, especially in these sort of situations, but it isn't. And it's the very best that we can do. And these people are like, no, we don't want to do it because we're going to have to relive the whole situation. Meanwhile, understand this, with all these kids that y'all throwing up, and they're still doing their thing, going on cross country tours, writing books and stuff, and even the pro Second Amendment people, such as Andrew Pollock, for all these people, you're definitely reliving the event over and over and over and over because you're bringing everything back to this event, which was what you're talking about. And I'm not saying one way or another if you're wrong for doing it. I don't. I don't know the motivation of everybody in this whole scenario, but you are bringing it up. That's what you're talking about every single day. All right. So as far as, oh, it's too traumatic, you had to go to trial, you'd have to deliver due process. There had to be some sort of evidence shown. You couldn't bear the thought of it because you're so emotional. For some reason, your child's name is a complete different last name. I'm struggling to understand how and why that is from you and your wife. And that's like a side factor. But the thing is, your emotions are too much, even though I'm not saying that this person is doing that because this is the first time I ever heard of this person. All right, but y'all are reliving it by writing these articles. And you won't mention the guy's name, and you're not curious enough to find out exactly what happened on that day. Lord knows you know nothing about what happened on that day, and you've been given all sort of bogus testimonials. But you take that and you chew that up, you swallow it up, perhaps because you want to not get to the bottom of these things. And it's unfortunate, but I wanted to detail that real quick. Let's just read this one more article. Going for the death penalty will not bring our loved ones back to us. It's not about bringing your loved ones back to you. That's the thing about it. You're going to hear that notion. Oh man, it's not going to bring our loved ones back. It's not going to bring our loved ones back, especially for this scenario. It's not in order to bring your loved ones back at all. Like I don't think anybody has that sort of notion like, oh, if we have a trial and we had conduct due process, it might bring these people back to life. Like nobody ever discussed this. So why would you even say it? Other than you're trying to get some sort of emotional reaction from it. You're being very emotional and you're kind of taking a stance against due process. It's unfortunate. But it says, it will not bring our loved ones back to us. It will not make the physical scars of those wounded go away. There's much to be said about that. But in fact, what it will do is continue the trauma and not allow victims to heal and get closure. So what he's saying is due process, all right, will not allow victims to heal or get closure. All right, period. Can't have due process, not at all. Of course, he's admitted to it, this and that. We've never heard of a coerced confession. This isn't all sort of peculiar. It isn't all that convenient that people could capitalize on this situation in such a political way, in such a blatantly political sense, and then run all willy-nilly all around town, like, for example, Sheriff Scotty Israel, who's lied all over the place in provable ways. I know that I'm not the only person who's seen it. People have come out in public and called him a liar and called him all sort of names. And so it's like, it's kind of interesting. It's an interesting thing to think about whether or not this person should be fully investigated and whether or not this person is being fully investigated. But for example, they still run all willy-nilly and you got a Scott Israel who's going to run for sheriff. And we don't have time to go through those articles. All right, but going to run for sheriff in 2020. All right, isn't that amazing? But actually, yeah, we're going to take a look because I wanted to see this right quick. Just the spread of, updated articles. This is what you're going to see. They're mostly the same. But Los Angeles Times review after Parkland asks what follows a mass shooting. I can tell you this about Parkland. What follows a mass shooting is obscurity. I'm here to tell you, even though these people are so forced down everybody's throats, the David Hoggs and this and that, I'm not even sure who's in this particular documentary, but what happens after a mass shooting? Obscurity, because you know what I'm saying, you're just a regular person anyways. The Parkland parent says school shooter should rot in jail. See, how they're gonna repeat rinse and repeat and copy and paste. So this is the Hill doing that sort of thing. Should rot in jail for the rest of his life in a new op-ed. And you notice that sentiment. You hear the same sentence over and over and over. Of course it's a spiritual thing, right? Of course these people aren't having the same exact thoughts as each other and articulate them in the same exact way, like, this person should rot in jail for the rest of their life. I want to know about them rotting. I want to know about their flesh rotting, and that's the only way I'm going to be satisfied, and stuff like that. Isn't that what you're writing? Right, that he needs to rot in jail, and I love it so much if he just rots in jail. And also, I don't want to have to go to trial and stuff. I don't want to have due process. I know this whole situation is mysterious. My child's life got taken, and none of these answers are being answered. But I want this person to rot in jail, and I want to know about it. All right, that's pretty much the sentiment. Am I right? All right. No, I don't want to really get to the bottom of nothing, and I don't want no sort of evidence. I don't want this simple storyline to even add up or make any sense. I don't want to logically be walked through this entire timeline and realize how laughable it is. All right. I want this person to rot in jail, and I want to know about it. Isn't that the sentiment? And you'll get it from probably different various people. After Parkland Review, gun violence reverberates through time. Who knows what that means? Who even cares? The deadline. After Parkland awards contending a documentary on incredibly traumatic high school shooting, I'm sure. After Parkland, film review, documentary. This is 2 weeks ago, or 2 days ago. Oh man, it's breaking. Documentary follows activists forged in tragedy, all right? Forged into glorious gladiators in the arena, in the lion's den, against all odds, whining and crying and bickering and crying oppression as they wish to take everybody's rights away, to include the most vulnerable of people, just trying to defend themselves in ways that maybe David Hogg does not understand. All right, against all odds, these underdogs, these people who are, even though they're thrusted upon everybody down our throats, nobody could care any less. They're political allies who also want to ban everybody's rights. They also could care less about David Hogg and all the rest of them because they're not sensational, unfortunately. And I mean, just to notice that about entertainment in of itself, it's like, you go on the Disney Channel and it's wildly unnatural for sure. But those people are sensational, I guess, for some sort of reason. Kids want to be just like them. They see them on the TV, right? And they're sensational, I guess, for some reason. Some of them come up out of that world and actually are pretty interesting. Like, for example, a Logan Paul type of a person, all right? Whether you're not or you like Logan Paul, it doesn't really kind of matter. He has this sensational sort of aura. None of these Parkland people have it. Alexa Midnick, for the only time that we've seen her in life, I mean, and the different various photos we've seen on social media, she had it all. She still does, probably. She has everything as far as sensationalism, and yet still we can't talk about it. Nobody's going to talk about it. Don't you ever talk about it. The best friend in the world to Meadow Pollock, the person saying, hey, I don't think he did it. What's she got to say? But no, you don't want to talk about it. Isn't that interesting? The U.S. today, the loneliest club for survivors cotton. I bet you it is a lonely club. You might want to be a part of that club. What kind of club is that? Parkland massacre dad urges prosecutors to let shooter rot in jail. All right. So like I said, copied and pasted. We're going to see what we had to talk about up in the comments section. We got on Rap by Brenda. She's putting in mad work, all right? Safety first to everybody out there. You could be driving cross country, delivering all sort of goods to people. You could be actually taking care of children, unlike Carla and Faith. And you probably have handfuls of children right now trying to rock them to sleep. That being said, of course, you wouldn't put in the comments. But anybody else out there, feel free to put in the comments. Let us know where you're at, what you're doing. and how you feel about certain things, maybe what you want to talk about and stuff like that. I just want to send a warm invitation. But on Rabbi Brandon says Scott Israel is like a coup with only himself. It's like a coup. He's like a coup with only himself. It's like he's trying to make a coup on himself. I'm not sure. I'm sure that, yeah, there's probably different various ways, and I bet you they're all true. But I don't know if Scotty is trying to run a coup on himself. It's like, dude, if I tried to make myself look so shameful, if that was my number one goal in life, I still don't think I could do it as good as Scotty Israel does. And he does it so well. And he just won't even, like, you know how people get shamed and they get totally blasted, put on blast and ridicule on the internet and everywhere else. And then they like they blend into the background and they kind of play it off and they're just like, I'm gonna stay out of the limelight for a little while. I'm gonna let this blow over because people, they don't have a big attention span anyways. Maybe later on I'll come through and maybe people won't talk about this so much. Instead, he's just kept it alive and talked about how he's done an amazing job and how he's the best thing that Broward could ever hope for, ever even hope for. That there's no other person that could do this job so well as Scotty Israel, that he has to continue to not only beg for his job through legal means, but he's going to run again in 2020 for Broward, and nobody likes him no matter what. If you're on the anti-gun, the pro-gun, the left, right, doesn't really matter. This guy is ominous. He looks like untrustable, right? And yet still he's carrying on. And these people are talking about stuff that's just not sensational. It's annoying when you think about it. It's kind of annoying how we have sensational characters. Alexa Minnick, who, for all intents and purposes, is not even on this flat earth anymore. I'm just kidding. I don't know what shape the Earth is. I think it's round, but we're gonna leave that up in the air. Where is she at? I don't know. Nobody knows. We're not gonna talk about it. We don't need due process. We don't want to hear evidence. We don't want to get to the bottom of this. Yeah, we were delivered a stupid story in which things don't add up, but our brains don't even comprehend that sort of stuff. There's no way that we can compute that this evidence is laughable at best, and we're just going to let everything go by the wayside. We're going to knock down that building. I know I'm getting into esoteric details, but for the people out there, yeah, they're itching and scratching to knock down this building. I guess that would be their number one best thing that they would want to have happen. I understand I'm saying they. Who is they? Yeah, that's true. All right, maybe certain parents, maybe certain people with deep pockets. I don't know. Maybe some people running GoFundMe's. All right. Well, why would they be itching and scratching? I'm not sure. To go ahead and have the quickest trial possible, make sure that Nicholas Cruz rots in jail. They want to know about it as he's rotting. Like, they want confirmation that he is rotting. And also, they don't want to hear not a mumbling word from Nicholas Cruz, not about anything, not an explanation on anything. They don't want to know literally zero. They don't want to know more than anything at all. Okay, they want to run through this trial about as quick, fast as possible, just in time for 2020 for Hillary to be president, and they want to prepare for that. That's what they want to do in the meantime. But okay, they want to have that quick trial and stuff, get that out of the way. No evidence necessary. Obviously, he's guilty. Everybody's already said he's guilty, and so why are they even having a trial? I don't know, just to be formal. All right, so they're gonna run through. I'm not saying that this was gonna happen, but this is their ideal. When you're talking about the defense attorneys, they're hoping and praying to have if they can make it a 1 week long trial and be done with it, that would be too long for them. That would be too long. All right, so they want to do that, and immediately after that's done, and Nicholas Cruz, you never hear a word from him ever again. Then they're going to knock down that building so that any sort of evidence or, logistics or trying to figure out that this timeline didn't even make no sense at all. And the acoustics of everything going on. And the fact is people heard across campus gunshots. And then certain people who were like right next door heard like 2, 3, 5 gunshots. All right. Isn't that wild? So they're going to tear down that building because get rid of that, obviously. That is a thorn in their side for sure. All right, and then they already thrown in like 18 million or some odd taxpayer dollars for a new building to compensate for the old building. All right, they already got plans for that, and that's already going through. So don't you even worry about that. And that would be their ideal. That's the way that they want to open and shut this case. And we'll see if that's going to happen. Lord knows there's already been a lot of twists and turns in this story. All right, we're about to jump into a news blitz. All right, in which I got some screenshots that I think we're just going to go over. All right, just to get them out of the way. All right, just to make note of them. But before we go over, let me check out the comments and see what we might need to know. It's from our co-host. Unwrapped by Brenda says, no one would be following us around and putting it on themes if we went out as activists. Laugh out loud. We'd get put in jail, I bet. There's lots of reasons why we'd probably get put in jail. All right. I'm not sure what Brenda was getting at, which says he's like trying to force himself back into the sheriff's department, is what Brenda meant. And this is in reference to Scotty Israel. It is kind of weird. All right. That's one of the most key notes, I think, is that you got this guy, and of course he's embarrassed himself all over the place. And what kind of psychopath wouldn't know that? It's like, I don't want to call him that, but it's like, how would you not know that you embarrassed yourself all over the place? How would you not know? It's very provable that you've dropped the ball in all sort of different ways. Uh, um, Beyond a doubt, beyond a shadow of a doubt, you did, right? And people seem to have lost their lives to whatever extent, allegedly, because of that situation. And then you turn around and make it highly political, and you get thrown out, and then you cry about it. And you try to get some sort of legal loophole to where you can get back in the sheriff, even though nobody wants you, and you're proclaiming that everybody wants you. Nobody could be so blind, so why you keep doing it, and you're proclaiming that you're going to run for sheriff in 2020, even though nobody, literally nobody, you're not going to get anybody, besides maybe very obscure people who are desperate, I guess, for payoffs. You're not going to get anybody to stand behind you, no matter their political leanings. And so what kind of circus is that going to be in Broward? All right. I want to point out that it seems as though some people have been stealing elections for quite some time. I couldn't say about Scotty J. Israel, but I think that's what his name is. I couldn't say about him, but the thing is, it seems as though he did. And it seems as though he was not prepared to be ousted in this particular fashion. And it seems as though he seems to have reason to believe, even though, yeah, he's mad delusional, that he'll be able to, there's no way he's going to win this election. So does he have some sort of idea that he's going to steal this election? You know how wild that would be? Right? And who's to say when the whole 2020 goes down? I don't know if it's going to be at the same time as the presidential election or when exactly. Might get to the bottom of it, but we'll do so a little bit later. Unwrapped by Brenda, she says this. I'm surprised they didn't bulldoze the building yet. That's the thing. That's what we noted. We're actually coming upon all sort of different knowledge and stuff. Like there's things that I didn't know that this particular story has brought to my attention, and that you can't tear it down before the trial is done, and that is for a reason. You would imagine people are doing that because of evidence that could be present in that location. All right, that's why you don't tear it down until the trial is over. Now the thing is, these people are definitely advocating for lawlessness and advocating for their emotions to trump reason. And so, yeah, if they had the opportunity, if they could do it, if there was no law against it, they would have came with their torches and stuff like that and kicked down the walls and stuff. Perhaps even injured themselves in a frenzy and a fit of rage and stuff. They would have knocked down that building, probably burned it up, maybe burned some buildings on the side of it, because they're in a frenzy and a rage. They would have done it if there was no law against it, but there is laws against it. And so it pains them that they haven't done it yet. All right. Meanwhile, it's kind of awkward how like we seem to be like Sherlock Holmeses. How come we have these questions like, okay, you shot off this gun. What does that gun sound like on the first floor? What does it sound like on the third floor when you're shooting it from the first floor? What do those sound like? Would those be muffled by a fire alarm? Would you not understand? Would you? How loud it's gonna be? Can you hear it across campus? Some people claim that they could. Some people right next door, they were like, yeah, I heard a couple different gunshots and then I hid in the closet. And long story short, I'm a celebrity now. Thing is, it doesn't hardly make any sense. Oh, so, and we could go over all the details. Obviously, there's no evidence to include the surveillance footage that should completely and utterly detail this entire situation, right? Especially what goes on in the hallways. Speaking of that, everything took place in the hallways. All right, and they said all this stuff about smoke grenades. That probably isn't true, but of course, they went on later and said, "No, man, he just kicking up so much dust that it seemed like there was smoke. That's how much he was wilding out. That's how much he was literally lighting up the hallways with all sort of bullets. That dust was pouring out of the dang walls, and it made it look like there was smoke bombs. And so, like little girls, we delivered the gossip of, oh yeah, there's smoke bombs all over the place. That's what the FBI did, allegedly, and I don't even believe it. All right, and all sort of things. We're getting off on a tangent, but it's just to say, yeah, you'd want that building. You'd want to find out how exactly this could even take place if you did want to know anything about the truth. And if you don't, you want to knock it down in a fit of rage. And it's unfortunate. Meanwhile, just to get it out of the way, all right, we got about an hour, hopefully, maybe a little bit less. All right, but I wanted to go ahead and get a screenshot rundown and news blitz. We focus on these particular situations, and they are very important. There's a reason why I wanted to do that. All right, but we want to find out where we end up. Maybe let the internet lead us. Of course, Brenda probably has an idea out there of the different various wild things that we could talk about. And so I'm relying on her heavily. All right. But meanwhile, you see all these screenshots. It's more than we could ever know what to do with. All right. So, we're just gonna start we're gonna start at the end, all right, and see that there's a lot. Right. After Parkland, Saugus High School students walked out in protest. That's unfortunate. All right. There's certain ones of these that we've covered, and we're going to continue to cover them. Shout out to the two people up in the building. I appreciate you. And like I said, we're about to do a free for all. This is a news blitz. So whatever stuff that you might have heard about and we haven't brought it up, let it be known, right? And we're going to Google the heck out of it. This one is Robert F. Kennedy. He was talking about vaccines. The only reason I wanted to bring it up is because there's a new movie out. It's called Vax 2. And that's out. Of course, there was Vax 1. This one's even more hard-hitting. I think this will be even more crucial. I don't think any anti-vaxxers exist. People are scared of poison. Anyways, Adam Schiff and this lowly degenerate, you notice that the news doesn't want to talk about Ed Buck the same way they want to talk about Jeffrey Epstein. You notice that? Alleged member of neo-Nazi Atomwaffen Division. I just wanted to bring y'all's attention to that as well. All right. It's not too much to be said about that other than some people are going to jail and they're being accused of being Atomwaffen Division members. It's something that I think is entirely made up. And the news media is in cahoots with people in the law enforcement, system. They're locking people up. Governmental agencies, the FBI is coming in, locking people up, accusing them of being of Atomwaffen Division, and perhaps they were joking about it on the internet, or perhaps they have no idea what they're even being alleged to have done. All right, but they're being put up in jail. They're being accused of being Atomwaffen Division members. They're probably white. In fact, they're definitely white, but they probably have blonde hair, blue eyes, and the whole nine. These people, they're being perpetrated on. It's actually being fabricated against them, and they're throwing them in jail. And they're alleging them to say, "Oh man, we found out you're from Atomwaffen Division. What do you want to say about that?" And those people are like, "What?" And they're like, "Oh, we're gonna write about it. We don't care what you have to say about it." And so they write about Atomwaffen Division, and like I said, it's a paper trail for later on. This group that you never heard of. And I'm the only person you ever heard talking about this. And they're going to set it up to be like, oh yeah, of course it's people were planning terroristic things, and that's why bombs are exploding and stuff like this, and we need to take all y'all's guns and stuff. We can't afford y'all to have guns or rights and stuff. It's because of Atomwaffen Division. This is a picture, right? This is all the evidence we need. Isn't this shouldn't you be afraid of this? right? Aren't they knocking on your door, knocking down your door, trying to get your daughters and stuff like that, trying to pillage your local town? I don't think so. All right, I think it's kind of made up. But I wanted to just draw everybody's attention to it again because I know that that's the only reason. And they talk at great length about these people. And it's always the same thing. He's allegedly, these people were writing down. Like, for example, on that story, and we're not going to get into it, I believe on this story, they were like, he was writing down from one state to another and he had several guns and stuff like that. And he was riding with his his mate who had ties to Atomwaffen Division, and we pulled him over, and we found his guns and his ammo, and that's messed up. And meanwhile, that whole thing, that's not illegal what he's doing, and they don't even say that it's illegal. If you go to the article, they don't say the word like, oh, it's illegal, because it's not. He's not breaking the law, but they say, oh, he's part of Atomwaffen Division, and isn't that terrible? Right now, it says they were struggling to keep the signal on our broadcast, and that's messed up. Right, I know from prior experience. Shout out up in the comments to let us know how the feed is coming in, if you can hear me at all. But I know from prior experience that messes up the recording. All right, so we're gonna take a moment, I guess, to take a breather. I wonder if anybody can hear me. I wonder if I'm lost in the matrix right now. I wonder if there's something that I could do to get up, if I could do something to manipulate this situation. I'm not too sure, but what I'm going to do is this. Bloop. Unplug that, see if that works. See if I unplug that and the system works in my favor and the signal comes back in. What if I plug it in like this? I wonder what's going on right now. What if I should play some music? Always sit here and relax. It would be a good time, I think, for, what do you call those? An intermission. Technically speaking, had this whole broadcast not been put on hold the way it is, it would be a good time for an intermission, I bet you. I think it would be a perfect time. However, we got to see if we can't get the signal back and operating. Let me know, my co-host. If you can, if you're still out there, let me know if I am coming in at all. And if we should continue sharing information with each other in the meantime. I see some comments right here. It's from Unwrapped by Brenda, a dear co-host and contributor to this channel. She says some more. Oh man, there's more coming in. She says some more respectable sheriffs would have resigned after shooting like that. After a shooting like that. That's true. In fact, most people would resign whether or not they were respectable, right? Just because it makes enough sense to get out of Dodge. And I do want to make note, for those people who are familiar with all the various characters in Parkland, when it comes to Sheriff Grady Judd, or when it comes to Bob Gigliotieri, or I can't remember how to say it, that sheriff, those are sheriffs that honestly, in the whole scheme of things, there could be corruption behind the scenes. Always, there's a possibility. But those sheriffs, I would say, are more my style. I would want those kind of sheriffs who don't exactly like play around, who don't exactly get very emotional with things. They say things in a very blunt way that sometimes rubs people the wrong way. That's how I would like to take it. Kind of keep emotions out of it. And I don't want to hear that from a sheriff or anybody talking to a sheriff. All right, that's what I would want to say. And who knows? There could be corruption going behind the scenes with any number of untold people. Of course, I believe that sheriffs should go just like everybody else, innocent until proven guilty, for that matter. And when they seem like they're doing a good job, then I would say go ahead and continue to see if you can keep that going, all right? As far as San Antonio Sheriff, I've heard good things. I've definitely not heard so many bad things. And I gotta say, as far as San Antonio being democratically run, which is a risky behavior, all right, that's high risk nature. It seems like our sheriff isn't that bad, All right, he would be respectable enough to perhaps bow out if indeed he was responsible for all sort of mess ups, like in this instance. Right? Unwrapped by Brenda says, and his uncle's grandma's name is Adam. Lock what? Lock him up. Lock him up. His uncle's grandma's name is Adam. What? I don't know if we're talking about Sheriff Scotty Israel. I don't know who we're talking about. But his uncle's grandma's name is Adam. And that, I think that means something very bad. Probably in Colorado. And I want to get to the bottom of it. Rabbi Brenda says it's good now and it was buffering before, but it quit. All right, so YouTube tries to rattle my cage and stuff. They want to see if I can really hang. All right, that's the thing about it. I accept the challenge. You see, I think I can handle the turbulence, if you will. YouTube might come into my broadcast and purposefully have beef with me and just rattle me around and buffer me up, see if it won't get me all flustered. And I assure you that it might. Yeah, maybe for a little while. All right, but I'll be back. All right. Paul Thomas Anderson directs new high-end video called Hallelujah. All right, this is a girl band. I don't expect you to know who this is. They're not even technically, I would say, the best girl band around necessarily, but I like their style. This was a random screenshot. I just wanted to remember it for later. This guy Paul Thomas Anderson, he's a well-respected director. Apparently, people freak out when he has music videos for some reason. All right, and so you can look out for that. He wrote "Kill All Women," but a judge returned his guns. That's very interesting, as vague as that is, and we're not going to read the article. Definitely wanted to bring that up because all it is another example of the limitless examples in which kind of run by this formulaic thing. He wrote it. Where did he write it? Why did he write it? Is there some context? He wrote it. Did he write it on a napkin, like at a bar somewhere? Did he wrote it? He really did? I mean, we're in 2019. What are you talking about? He wrote it. He wrote "Kill All Women." Why would he write that? What's the context behind that? I don't know. I don't think that they're gonna ask those hard-hitting questions. But that is the headline for this article: "Kill all women," but the judge returned his guns. Why? I'm sure that the article is going to go into it, but the biggest question, of course, I think would be, why are they telling us about this? Oh yeah, there's some sort of thing where all males is toxic masculinity. All right, males are out to harm everybody and stuff, and they can't even help it. If they get access to guns, they might start pistol whipping everybody up and down the streets. Right? This is sentiment, and we've experienced it. We can feel, and it's totally illogical. We all refute it, basically, as far as I know. People who come to this channel basically refute that idea. It's toxic masculinity, and as every man is just itching and scratching to pistol whip everybody down the streets, especially women and minorities. Because here's the thing: it's especially white men, and they have also rights and privileges above everybody else, to include abuse and domestic abuse and things like this. And we're just gonna let them have guns, and that's why we need to take everybody's guns away, especially law-abiding citizens. That's the sentiment. And not only that, I don't know what's written in this article, but I can assume, he wrote "Kill All Women." Was it on his social media, or is that going out on a limb? That it probably was on his social media, which is the whole point of this entire article, is to say, oh man, this guy's on social media, he's expressing this and that, and then you see him, he's outrageous, and therefore, obviously, you take all his guns. All right, you don't even need to know the context necessarily of this whole person's life necessarily. Was there due process in this whole thing? Apparently there was. There was a judge involved who returned all his guns to him. But that's not going to be enough. You still want to talk about how he's very guilty. He wrote "Kill All Women," and we're going to put it in a headline, all right? And basically it's all very formulaic. That's what I wanted to get into. So just another example. This guy, he's one of the most interesting guys I ever laid eyes on. Just to talk about him real briefly, I don't know anything about this guy. right? I know he's the husband to what's that name? What's that lady? Kellyanne Conway. That's her husband right there, Mr. Conway, and he looks very interesting. I'm not too conspiratorial as far as minded. I don't know if y'all get that out there. I like to be open about it. There's certain things that, of course, happen behind the scenes. Are those conspiracies? Yeah, they are. That's the definition of it. But I don't get too often in the weeds with theories. However, I just wanted to point out that as far as Kellyanne Conway's husband goes, he looks like, say, if Eddie Murphy were to put on a fat suit, all right? It looks unnatural. He doesn't just even look like a fat person, which is very natural. I've seen people be fat and stuff. He looks like he's wearing a fat suit. This person. What's going on here? I know that that can't be the case, but why do you look like that, dude? What's up with your throat? Why don't you tuck that in or something? Like, you look ridiculous. Yeah, every time you take a picture, do you see yourself on the internet? I would imagine he never Googles himself or looks in the mirror. You see that? What is that, dude? How old are you? That's what I want to know. How how many donut shops do you visit on a weekly basis? What's going on here? All right, sincerely, I want to know. Sincerely, I want to know. But seeing as that we are talking about him just real briefly, I want to say it's kind of a shame. It's a damn shame. And seeing as this is Shame on him with G, I'm G, I'm y'all's host. Shame on this guy, all right, for looking this way, number one. Could you get it together? I mean, you know you're on the internet. Could you kind of have some self respect? Could you put a Cheeto bag down? Is that possible? All right, not only that, you're kind of embarrassing the whole country because you understand that your wife works directly for Donald Trump and for the presidency. And on the face of things, she seems like she wants to make America prosperous, right? And it seems like you want everything but that. I really don't know anything else about you, but it seems like as far as this guy goes, Mr. Conway, like he wants to throw a wrench in everything, no matter what. He's against Donald Trump no matter any possibility for success and prosperity for the country. He says, damn that, I hate Donald Trump. He's the worst person ever. I want to focus on it. And it's like, dude, you might as well be a spy. You might as well be a terrorist, all right? Because you're kind of fulfilling that role. And then, you're kind of getting wildly emotional. And the thing is, if you could point to all sort of things that your best buddy Hillary Clinton probably could do better, I would love to hear about it, but I doubt it. I doubt that you could do that. You just want to get emotional on Twitter and make a damn fool out of yourself, all right? Embarrass yourself. That's what you're doing. Shame on you and how you're trying to embarrass the country. I just want to say about that. Why does it look like you're wearing a fat suit, all right? All the time. All right, Mayor of Muncie, Indiana, indicted for allegedly accepting a $5,000 bribe. I want to talk about that real quick. I don't know who this guy is. All right, $5,000 bribe. That's hilarious. I gotta say, I don't know if I just come from a big city, but that $5,000, you got caught up on that. Either that's a distraction from the actual truth, or that is extremely laughable. I don't know what kind of addition you would put on your double wide trailer. And I'm not hating on people from trailers. I love people from trailers. I'm saying, dude, $5,000. That's what you got caught up on. That's what it's, that's how it's going down in Muncie, Indiana. All right, I can imagine it have a high homicide rate up in Muncie. All right, if people are tripping on $5,000, getting indicted for it. I'm not sure what this is about, but I screenshotted that for some sort of reason. It's talking about Naperville, right? That's, just real quickly. I don't know if we got pictures as far as Naperville, but, just to real quickly talk about it. I have been sort of keeping a loose eye on Naperville, what happened in Naperville. It was a Buffalo Wild Wings incident. It involved racism. It became a national incident. Jesse Jackson showed up. All sort of slick willy lawyers, took their position, tried to extort Buffalo Wild Wings. I don't know if they were successful at it. Buffalo Wild Wings said they were going to have some sort of sensitivity training, all right? And nothing came of it. In fact, the later articles written about the situation, it meant nothing racist happened on that particular day at all, period. And it's hard to even know the context because the accused couple in question, two white people, They were on a police report, but their names were not leaked. Therefore, they were not banned from anything because don't nobody know their names or have their faces, except in that specific location, maybe. And the thing is, they went ahead and they fired the manager anyways. They fired the host anyways. How much you want to pay? They put a non-disclosure agreement in on the whole thing and say, "Hey, you work for Buffalo Wild Wings. This is a corporation. You shut that mouth on you. You don't say a mumbling word," and that's why we haven't heard from them ever, the manager and the host that got fired, because it would be more apparent if we got word from them just how made up this whole situation was. There was no racism that took place, obviously, and they made it up. And they had press conferences over it. They said how their kids were super traumatized. They kept making their kids relive the incident over and over, and that's going to carry on. And I saw an article in which one of the fathers, at least one of the fathers, was going around Illinois and actually delivering speeches and this and that, motivational speeches, and having Q&As with children in various school settings, perhaps getting paid to do it, relaying a story of racism that literally never took place, and it's still somehow economically viable and is still carrying on. And that's just bizarre. Meanwhile, most of the country never heard of it, is not aware of it now, and maybe we'll never be aware of it until it's brought up later, in which people say, "Oh, don't you remember that extreme racism that took place in Naperville? It was well documented. All sort of white people were body slamming black folk in the parking lot and stuff like that. Don't you remember the Naperville incident?" They're gonna bring it up later, as though we have no idea, because most people will have no idea what they're talking about. All right. Pregnant, I wanted to point this out. Pregnant migrant beaten for crossing border without paying cartel. I don't know if that's real or fake. I don't know, but I can guarantee you that happens. That might seem wild. Some people might say, there's no way that could happen. Of course, nobody would be running a business that could stoop to such lows as to do this sort of stuff. Yeah, it could be, and it's wild. You're talking about South Texas and, of course, northern Mexico and different various other places. Yeah, it can get wild, and yeah, this will happen. I don't know if that's real or not, but it sounds pretty realistic to me. And so, therefore, that's another risk. In fact, that's one of the major risks about illegal border crossing, is that you kind of leave yourself at the whims of perhaps sadistic, psychopathic criminals. That might even happen. I don't know why I took a. Okay, this is about that particular story. Joint Task Force West Director Manuel Padilla Jr. told Breitbart News about a pregnant woman who the cartel smugglers beat because she did not pay to cross the border, obviously. And if you're not aware, I think they beat. I don't know if they beat her to death, but they definitely beat that baby to death. That's what happened. Rabbi Brandon says, whose first thought after bad incidents is to travel around and give speeches? Yeah, I know. And to make your whole economic uh, future about going around giving these speeches, or at least doing it as a side gig. Oh, this happened. It's so traumatic. Oh, it's so traumatic to my children. Let me make my whole life about this, base my whole life around this. And let me write books and stuff, even though nobody cares anyways. And secondly, it did not happen. People with any sort of logic, when they first heard about it, they knew it didn't happen. And we come to looking into it and find out, yeah, no, it didn't happen. There are no witnesses that say that this happened. And there's no surveillance. Nobody has no evidence that this happened. And of course, we already knew that. And why would people go around and make it their whole entire lives? That is the $1,000,000 question. And that's why we have Brenda around. And we'd be kind of lost without her. I don't even want to imagine. I don't want to even think about that for too long. What would happen right now if Brenda wasn't here to lay down the law? All right, who would want to do this? How does this make sense? It doesn't make sense, all right? But they're gonna do it anyways, and they're gonna get paid money. It's like, that's shameful, ain't it? All right, this is probably a real thing. If this didn't really happen, what we're looking at right here, yeah, it probably happens, right? It's kind of a routine. I wanted to shout out to Paul Romano running Pockets of the Future. He has some pretty critical work, dude. I think it's very crucial. If you have time, subscribe on YouTube. Anderson Cooper doubles down on the toot toot trolley to hell. And I don't know what he's talking about, but he's got a pretty funny thumbnail. And yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. I just wouldn't even doubt it. I don't think we have time to see what the heck that's about. All right, but we're noticing that certain people, I'm not saying Anderson Cooper, but as we gaze upon Anderson Cooper, certain people who will go unnamed, they look more and more like ghouls and goblins every single day. Hundreds of fish found dead at a lake in Turnberry Island Country Club. Thing is, I wanted to say this. As far as fish go, yeah, sometimes they die all at the same time. It's very peculiar. There's always a reason for it. And it might be run of the mill, everyday type stuff. It could very well be that. And that does happen. That's what's in the mysterious nature of having all your fish come up dead, especially when when I say y'all, I mean everybody, keeps pouring poison after poison all up into our water supply. Could it have something to do with that? Yeah, maybe. Or maybe these fish could have organically came up all dead. It doesn't happen every day, but it's not extremely rare. That's what I come to find out. That it has happened before, and it does happen. What's going on over here? Couldn't say. But do they have toxic water? Yeah, they do. I've heard a lot about that. Drag Queen says that. Oh man, Drag Queen says that she was denied. We talked at great length about that. I think y'all remember that. In fact, we probably have screenshots. In fact, there it is. That's the person. We already talked about that a lot. I'm sure a lot of y'all remember. That's a person named Erica Clash. That's with two Ks. That's a person. They're into a whole host of awkward things to include what's called pastel gore. Pastel gore, like the colors, pastel gore, and that's a thing. You'll find it on Instagram, all sort of things. It's beyond our wildest imaginations as far as disturbing type of behavior. This person, she's a beautiful, professional, beautiful lady. She rolled up in the Whataburger. They were hating on her, obviously, and discriminating on her. And the thing is, she's wearing a mask right now. And of course, there's typically areas in which you don't want people to wear masks, to include areas that have money being exchanged. All right, traditionally, you wouldn't want that necessarily. This beautiful professional lady did not understand why that was. She felt discriminated on, hated on. Whataburger broke themselves off and apologized via Twitter, just like everybody else, selling them out and stuff. And Whataburger's been sold out for a little while now. I know Texans know exactly what I'm talking about. A lot of them. That Whataburger is kind of selling out to the lowest common denominator at this point and breaking themselves off and apologizing, even though, of course, you wouldn't allow this person, they're wearing a mask, you can't tell their identity, to roll up in there and just be hanging out in the lobby. Meanwhile, all sort of children are probably going to come up crying and having a bad time. See, that was actually a good picture of Erica Clash. That's the thing about it. We're not going to talk about it for too long like we did the other day. But just note, that's a rabbit hole that you don't necessarily want to dive down unless you want to see wild, crazy stuff. All you had to do is go to the Instagram of Erica Clash, see this nonsense. This is what they're into. Have you ever seen this and ever even imagined this before? I hope not. This is Erica Clash. And of course, it's going to be an upside down cross every single time. None of these people can help what they're doing. They have a mentally disturbed thing going on about them. We might even get banned off of YouTube for even looking at this grotesque stuff that they do all year round. That's what they like to do. It's mentally disturbed, but it's also very much encouraged, right? It's in no way discouraged. It's something to tolerate, if you will. I wanted to point that out. If you just scratch the surface of any of these things where ghouls and goblins come out, and you'll notice, isn't that wild? Ghouls and goblins will pop out. You might have been seeing it recently. You're going to see it more and more recently. Ghouls and goblins are going to pop out, and then all sort of news publications are going to cover it. They're going to talk about it, and they're going to say, "Oh, this professional, beautiful lady, blah blah blah, was discriminated on, and she did this, and she did that, and her intentions, and blah blah blah. This beautiful professional lady is a goblin. It is a dude. It does have a wig on. It looks like a goblin. There's no way that it even resembles a lady, anyways, unless you're considering." The way that they stuff like bras and stuff and tuck things in and this and that, like how they, unless you're talking about that and the fact that they throw on a wig, anything else besides that, this person doesn't even resemble a lady for any reason. It resembles more closely a ghoul and a goblin. All right, so it's kind of obvious what it is. It's as though, I mean, it's as though a ghoul and a goblin popped up out of the sewer and then threw on a wig. You say, "Oh yeah, that's a professional, beautiful lady. You know, mind the pronouns for sure." All right, that's what we're looking at, and we're just gonna get more of it. It's gonna be that easy to go to Instagrams. It's gonna be that easy every time you hear about one of these people. They're maybe going to be at a drag queen story hour. Maybe they're going to be grinding on the kids on the floor, or having the kids grind on them on the floor. Maybe that's going to be taking place. All sort of things. And the thing is, yeah, that's definitely taking place. Whether or not it's being documented across the nation, if you scratch the surface of any of these people, you're going to find this over and over and over. You might say it's all well and good, right? America's the land of the free and the home of the brave. Shouldn't we allow these people to be around children? Oh, what, we're going to discriminate against this just because we scratch the surface and we find all sort of nightmarish things and imagery? Oh, that we're going to keep these people away from children? For real? We're going to keep these people away from children. This is Erica Clash. Just made a big deal upon Twitter, and Whataburger capitulated because they didn't want to oppress this beautiful lady, right? That's how much things are wild, crazy nutballs. And here's a more accurate picture of the beautiful professional lady. All right, as you can see in this particular picture, he's a dude, and he looks like he is right off the set of Star Trek. All right, I don't know, that's how it goes. And when that person isn't a dude from Star Trek, and then that person is a professional, beautiful lady. I didn't mean to jump to that one, but we've already seen that one. There are the results, all right? If you wonder if anybody, they say like live and let live, right? They say, hey, live and let live. They're doing some stuff and it doesn't hurt nobody. So just let them do what they're going to do and encourage it. And don't you ever bully it or shame it for any reason. Because you don't understand people. You're being a bully. All right, this doesn't hurt anybody. Meanwhile, Exhibit B. Oh, this doesn't hurt anybody. What does it say up under there? Erica Clash makeup look. Drag World Amino. I don't know what this is, but this is a real thing. This has not been faked. That's real news. All right. Oh, it doesn't hurt anybody. Oh, it really doesn't? So you can imagine this is what's documented. How many lonely delusion little boys who don't have fathers, let's get that out of the way. How many of these boys are sitting just completely alone for all intents and purposes? Maybe they have a phone. Maybe they're on it constantly trying to get some sort of attention or looking for people who are as lonely as them. They come across Erica Clash. That's the bee's knees. That's the best thing they ever seen before they're desperately lonely. These young boys, you got to imagine there's more than this little young boy, right? And so it gets to the point where, yeah, they're desperately alone. Yeah, they're constantly upon the internet. Yeah, they have access to their mother's makeup or something. I don't know what exactly went into this. But so they got time on their hands and this and that. Oh, it's not destructive to nobody else. It would be the argument. And there's also merch that you can get. Because like I said, this is a business, all right? People, there's money that changes hands. People want this. People will pay to have this around. All right? They get that money and they sell that merch. And hopefully there's not too many of those. I thought this was funny. Chick-fil-A is trying to distract you. Really? All right, CNN, you're gonna say that? It was a little while back. Um, they're doing a great job of it. Just to let you know. Here's the thing that I accidentally did sideways. I don't know if we, I don't know if we, I don't, it's CNN, so it is fake news, but at the same time, I don't know if we need to get too far into that. Police, white teen girl aimed to attack black Georgia church. Has anybody heard about this? Has anybody out there heard about this? Because I heard about it a little bit, but that was a while back. Might have been a week ago when I heard about this. Rabbi Brenda says lots of makeup to cover up when they shapeshift into the devil. Something like that. That'd be a reasonable way to put it, I think. To be honest, I wouldn't put it exactly that way, but that's not unreasonable at this point. I just want to put down that that's not unreasonable, but at the same time, uh, I would say on a more practical note, these people, they're ghouls and goblins. They have expressions on their face that certainly should be masked and hidden away. Sometimes they do it on the sly, and they'll have these expressions on their face that are very demonic, and they look like a ghoul and a goblin. Right, that does happen. Not only that, as has been demonstrated already before, when you just scratch around about these various people running the drag queen story hours and things of that nature, you're gonna find that they have things on their criminal record, and you're gonna find that it's gonna be very typical, stereotypical, the things that you're gonna find on their criminal record, and so they're gonna want to hide their identity in the many different various ways that they could do it. The easiest way would be to say that you're a pretty lady now, and you wear a wig and you put a mask on, and then you go to the drag queen story hour, and you're not exactly identified necessarily. You can slip in around and say, "Oh, I'm a beautiful lady. My name is Katie." I don't know what you said. I was trying to think of a cool name or whatever, but I couldn't think of one. I'm sure that they would think of them. You think of some sort of alias. You're now a pretty lady. You have a mask on. People are throwing their children at you. You're grinding on the floor with them. You're doing all sort of weird sexualized behavior around them, and it just keeps coming out more and more and more. And you're wearing a mask, and you have terrible expressions on your face. You want to hide your identity, even though I don't even know if that's even necessary at this point. All right, but it's working for them at this point. Wearing this mask and hiding their identity has gone far enough to hiding their intentions, I guess you would say. However, there have been people who have already been outed. And like I said, I think 90 to 95% of these people, if you scratch the surface, yeah, they're going to have a criminal background. But there's going to be a lot who don't have a criminal background, who you will find on Instagram, and likely they'll be prostituting themselves. And it's sad to say, but yeah, probably a lot of them. And you'll note that we didn't go over into it too much, but when it comes to that genre, say pastel gore and things of that nature, it seems to be very influenced. It seems to be highly motivated. It seems to be very much dwelling upon violence towards ladies. That's definitely what I noticed. If you dive down those rabbit holes, they're gonna have like different photo sessions and this and that. That you're gonna see that violence towards ladies, and I mean real ladies. The idea of violence towards real ladies, to include up to and to include murdering the ladies, is very bad, and is celebrated in those lines of entertainment, stuff like that. That's worth noting. All right, but that being said, we were looking at this. I don't know how real this is. Let me know up in the comments section. Y'all let me know who's catching this recording. Is that a real thing? What's going on there? I didn't look into that. Didn't seem to be much that came of that. All right, Midland, they're getting that money out there. I noticed that. All sort of stuff. We're not gonna have time to get through all of these things. Victim alleging Bill Clinton did all that sort of stuff to him. I noted how that came. That came to the forefront perhaps a week or so ago. I haven't heard much from it again lately. These sort of things take time. Perhaps it could fizzle out. Maybe they're false allegations. There's always a possibility Perhaps this is going to be something that we hear in the future later on, and it's wilder than we could have ever imagined. I'm not sure, but we'll keep an eye on that. Man's unacceptable racist fine on a pub receipt. I don't know what it says. Let's see what it says. Banana. That's messed up. That's what they circled. Banana. Right? Who in the world knows what that means? Number one. Sometimes you charge people. I've noticed that because I work in food service before. Sometimes you had to charge people, and you might even explain to them on a receipt. That's just the price of what it is that you bought. Maybe the name of it doesn't match up or sync up, and maybe it doesn't make any sense. But what you bought is at an awkward price, and so people put it under maybe an awkward title. Maybe that's the same price as if you bought a banana at the bar. I don't know why they have bananas. Maybe they do for some sort of fruity drink or something like that. And so they put it as price as banana, right? Or perhaps there was a banana flavored drink. Perhaps it would be a flavor of a banana, right? But inevitably, that's what they circled. They said, that's unacceptable. You're a racist. You put banana on my receipt. What are the symptoms of... We were making a note of that earlier. What are the symptoms? If you think that you might have the symptoms, I would say get that checked out. Y'all, I know that might be short-sighted. I know it might be irresponsible, but I personally don't have a concern for that right now. I don't have any symptoms of that as well. Not that I want to brag or anything like that, but I don't. And I thank the Lord that I don't right now as we give thanks in this particular season. Midland, Texas, they beat New York City area when it comes to fat paychecks. I wanted to make a note of that because Midland is a certain kind of peculiar area. All right, a lot of people might not know, but it's interesting to know they're getting that money. They're getting that oil money, by the way. This is Carla Faith. That's the only picture of her that exists. All right, that's a screenshot. What's this? Renderings released of a Marjorie Stoneman Douglas building. That's right, to replace Building 12, which they're going to knock down just as soon as possible. All right, they're itching to do it. Tim Cook gives Trump a tour. See, we're on things I want to just make note of. That is Donald Trump meeting with Tim Cook. There may or may not be slave factories up in China that Tim Cook is very aware of. That might just be rumors and hearsay, but I wanted to bring it up because that seems like big news. They came to Austin, which is just around the way. It's exploding with transgenders and drag queens galore. All right, and it's right down the way from San Antonio. I'm sure we're very close to that as well. Our mayor seems to love that sort of stuff. Tim Cook gives Trump a tour and stuff of the facilities up in Austin. Who knows what that means? Donald Trump, maybe he's trying to muscle Tim Cook. Maybe he's in cahoots with Tim Cook. All right, only time will tell, to be honest. But everything will come to light. And we're going to find out if maybe Tim Cook is pressured into making America great or something like that, giving us jobs, perhaps, so that we can pay our bills. And that way we can buy his stupid Apple gadgets and gizmos and stuff like that. I'm still not an Apple. I'm kind of an old dog. It's hard to teach new tricks, probably. I'm very scared to looking at Apple products, just especially because of how expensive they are. And they're built by slaves and slave factories. And, they got suicide nets. I don't know. Maybe that's true. Some people talk about it, all right? And they make it sound very true, but I don't know. All right, the U.S. economy is losing billions of dollars because of foreign students aren't enrolling. It's from CNN, so it's fake as hell. All right, but it's another attempt. They're like, oh man, we need foreigners. We need foreigners so bad. We need them because they're better than y'all. And in fact, if we don't get them, our economy is going to shatter into pieces, and we're never going to be able to get anything done unless we just bring in as much foreigners as possible. They're dreamers. They're much better than you. All right, their potential soars way past your potential. All right, we need them up in our schools. We need to give them free enrollment, I guess. Give them all sort of benefits. All right, and we need to put you by the wayside. That's what we've been doing. Meanwhile, if you do go up into college, hopefully you don't incur monumental loans, student loans and stuff, and it ruins your credit forever. Hopefully that doesn't happen. All right, but it might happen. And in fact, I got to think right now, It's interesting because if we take it back about 10 years ago, you think, okay, not a lot of people knew how much they were going to get screwed over royally because of these student loans, and they're never going to hear the end of it. And many of them are just going to default. In fact, statistically speaking, most of them are going to default on their payments. They don't have no money to pay it, all right? Maybe 10 years ago, that'd be like a inside knowledge. That'd be something that like not a lot of people understood. Now, it's just all over the place. It's pretty much abundantly clear, and people are. That's what they're talking about during these presidential elections. Even talking about the massive student loans that are going to be impossible, basically, for most people who have them to pay them off. And therefore, wouldn't that be a financial burden? Wouldn't that be like a terrible disaster, of devastating proportions on our economy? All right. So are people still doing it? It's 2019. Are people? And the thing is, I asked that a question rhetorically because, of course, people are still doing it, taking on all sort of student loan debt, and trying to get their kids into these universities so that they can be taught something to make all sort of money that's not out there. It's literally not out there. Uh, as far as our economy, I'm sure there's lots of different ways that we could bolster our infrastructure. And I'm positive about that. And I think that we should carry out those things. But as far as the university and all these things, there's literally not enough jobs or money to support the people who are going to university right now and trying to get those educations, because I think it's going to pay off. It's literally not paid off for well over a decade, and it's been abundantly clear. So why are you trying to do this? It doesn't make any sense other than that you're struggling to hold on to some sort of dream that doesn't make sense, in which you follow directions and orders, and that's what you do until you get paid big money. That's probably not going to be there at the end of the day. You're going to be placed into a job, for the most part. Most of them are going to get placed into jobs that are without recourse, and basically are a lot of them going to be meaningless jobs, perhaps working for the government, in which they get paid enough money to make payments on their student loans, and yeah, they could barely get a job, and yeah, their life is going to be financially very stressful because they're always going to have those student loans hanging over their head. I'm talking about to the tune of 100 million, not 100 million, but $100,000. And I've heard of that before. I don't think that's uncommon for some of these people out here to have $100,000 student loans. And they're never going to pay it off, and they're going to struggle very much to keep up with the payments. All right. Racist fruit words, oh boy. Says something right by Brenda. Everything is racist. The word banana is racist. Meanwhile, I love bananas. You're going to leave me out of it, all right? Forget me and my entire existence. There's certain things that I like. One of those includes bananas. What does that mean about me? Am I in the KKK now? Just because it's like, what does this even mean? They put it in national news, and they expect it to entertain people or something. These people get paid for this, to write these articles, and then we talk about it and we laugh about the times that we're in, and we try to enjoy ourselves in these times. And as we wind down, I want to make note. I think we have about 7 to 10 minutes or something along those lines to wind it down and come back into Zen mode. We're trying to lay shame on all sort of people and seeing how productive that could be. I think that it proved productive beyond our wildest imaginations. And I appreciate the time that we spent right here going over different various things. And if nothing else, just bolstering the idea and emphasizing the idea of shaming the hell out of people. People need shame all over themselves, right? All sort of shame. And this is actually a perfect example, I guess, right? It's just popped up. But I think this has something to do with it. He says, I regret getting the tattoos on my face. This is a tattoo artist. All right. He's given all sort of people all these tattoos, to be sure. I think someone else probably worked on his head. He regrets them. Right. He has shame to the point where, yeah, he got this done and he regrets it. That's not to say everybody who gets these face tattoos is going to regret it. All right, and there's people out there in certain lines of work who they can do that. If you're a tattoo artist, I bet you can do that. He regretted it. Why? because of the shame involved, right? It's not even necessary. And we're not coming out against men and tattoos, but think y'all might want to lay off getting tattoos on your head and your face? Doesn't make any sense. Vegan suits burgers. They suit a Burger King. And didn't you see that coming? That's sad right there, isn't it? As we wind down, you got places, like we've noticed, fast food places, they'll buckle at the sign of any sort of turbulence, right? Tribulation at the front door. They're going to buckle. Burger King, which is an establishment I haven't visited in many years, or I've not even thought about it. They came out and they capitulated, basically. They were trying to see if they could test the waters and see if they could get maybe more patronage, maybe get in the news. They're kind of capitulating. It's literally a burger place. It's called Burger King. And they came out and they were like, we're gonna do things and capitulate, and we're gonna totally 180 this whole entire thing, and we're gonna we're gonna throw a bone, if you will, pun not intended, to the vegans out there, and we're gonna make a vegan burger, and we're gonna capitulate a little bit to these fanatics. Trust me, fanatics. All right. That's not to say if you're a vegan, you're a fanatic, but if you want to eat burgers all day long and that's what you're thinking about, and you're a vegan, you're a fanatic. You're a radical, right? And I don't care if you understand me out there. If you come by and you're a radical vegan, stuff like that, and you want Impossible Burgers from Burger King, you want to demand it. And then when you find out they're making the same burgers, they're making those vegan burgers on a grill that has been used to make beef burgers the entire day. And you, for some reason, think that a fast food restaurant is not going to do that. Obviously, they're going to do that. And so they did do it. And now you're going to assume over something that inevitably was going to be the case simply because they capitulated. They gave you an inch. You took a mile. They should have already known better than to give a moose a muffin. And they did it. They did it anyways. They're going to continue to do it. It's going to cost them all sort of money. But meanwhile, the people owning all these Burger Kings, yeah, they're not making a lot of money. They're not making that Chick-fil-A money. I'll tell you that right now. They're not hurting necessarily. And so they don't feel it yet. Eventually, all these restaurants who fall to their own capitulation to certain various LGBTQIA groups, -P/org, and all the different various letters. You might as well say the whole entire alphabet 2 times in a row. They capitulate to these groups, and they're going to live to regret it, right? They're going to lose their business. It's not going to take forever, right? They're going to come and go, and a new one's going to pop up in their place. And they're all going to be politically correct for some reason, right? That's something to definitely look forward to as we wind down. We might only have a couple more things that we need to go over. I'm not sure what we're going to see. We definitely didn't get through all the screenshots, but hey, we're never going to get through all the screenshots. We don't need to be all worried about that. All right, I think we've discussed more than enough right now. And certainly, we probably haven't even gotten to the most wild stuff. But meanwhile, let's see what's happening in the comments. We got unwrapped by Brenda. She said, I want to sue Burger King for cooking my burger on the same grill as a chemically, and that's the thing, it probably is very chemically derived burger. All right, some sort of alien goop that they put on that grill. Who knows? Who's to know or say what it is? It's probably some soy patty with beans in it or something like that. It's probably shameful and ridiculous. Brandon, she's already talking about suing these people, and I wouldn't blame her. In fact, I think I support her in this. And suing Burger King because for sharing room with some sort of chemical burger, these disgusting fiends. It's like, dude, shame on these people. I love them. I love all these vegans. I love them. Don't mix my words. I'm not hating on them or bullying them. They lost their minds, all right? They're going all nutballs, and they're taking a mile when you give them an inch. They're going to do it every time. You don't give a moose a muffin. That much I can assure you. They're coming through, and they're demanding things. I think we should sue Burger King, because who's to say maybe it is a soy patty, right? That's disgusting enough. But, some of us have been through the internet and we've seen recent articles talking about that they want to make meat out of literally air and bacteria. All right, it sounds like I'm making it up. It sounds like it's not even possible. It sounds so stupid. Bacteria? You want to form bacteria patties in the air and call that meat and give it to us in sandwiches and say, hey, you're a Burger King here. You can have it your way. Here's some, because that's the exact direction this is going. It's not as extreme yet, but it's just like a couple years off. They want us to eat bacteria patties, literally. I've seen it in articles, and we should start seeing them over this. All right, let's get us some sort of idea that this is a two-way street. All right, you're kind of infringing all over our liberties and our rights. Juicy Smollett sues Chicago. That's another thing right there. Wild things. We've gone past the point of no return to some extent. There's something drastic that's going to happen, obviously. Who's to say what exactly that is? But we see all the telltale signs. We got Juicy Smollett. He's over here saying Chicago. He says he's suing Chicago, and he says police narrative caused humiliation. Isn't that appropriate? In this broadcast, we're talking about shame and how some people shame on them. They're experiencing shame. We're throwing shame on some people. Some people are throwing shame on themselves. So, Juicy Smollett is now shaming the police department. That is what they deserve. They were caught slipping and tripping. Honestly, they should have thrown the book at Juicy Smollett. And the thing is, all of America probably would have cheered it on. All right, throwing the book at him. I'm not saying like go outside of the law. I'm saying give him the full extent of punishment just because if you're trying to make an example of somebody, and I don't imagine that's a lifetime in jail, but however, it's definitely more than y'all gave to him. That's for certain. Meanwhile, the police chief of Chicago is caught slipping and tripping, and that's a side note. But Donald Trump threw some shame at the police chief of Chicago for slipping and tripping, and it might not be related, but totally dropping the ball as far as Juicy Smollett. Juicy Smollett ran game on y'all and gave y'all an unbelievable story, and y'all just took his word and ran with it, and he made it a big national spectacle. Meanwhile, it was all completely fake from the jump. I said it was fake from the very moment that I heard it. All right, so now he realizes there are no consequences in this game for Juicy Smollett. He has nothing to lose necessarily because there is no out of bounds for Juicy Smollett somehow. All right, that's how well connected he is, unfortunately. And I guess we go ahead and get on out of here, you guys. I appreciate y'all. And for the people who are going to come through, I don't want to make this recording too long because that would be intimidating. If you saw like this was 2 and 3 hours, people won't want to click on it. Obviously, that's too long, all right? But it's much more that we could go over. And the thing is, in subsequent broadcasts, I'm going to make it well known that I do have a Discord. I notice a lot of people be streaming and they get on this Discord stuff, and I guess they communicate afterwards just in case there's things that may have gone unmentioned during the broadcast, and you can get instant gratification, and you could get my comments on things, and of course it's a chat room type of situation. I would like to encourage people who see this recording to go ahead and download the app, and I'm going to see if it works. Maybe you're already on it. I know a lot of these millennials and a lot of these Generation Z's be on this Discord stuff. All right, and I want to meddle around with that and see what's going on with that. But meanwhile, I don't know what note that we want to add this broadcast on. All right. It's going to be kind of random. Oh, shoot. This is forbidden. I'm going to be very careful in saying that nobody's allowed to say this guy's name. So I'm not going to say it. All right. But you see a picture, and he's over there. He's straight chilling with Obama. I believe you could still say Obama's name, but I could be sorely mistaken about that, and I might get deleted off of YouTube for even just mentioning Obama's name. I say that in jest, but at the same time, this person, the other person, I can't say his name. all right, because I would just get shut down. The robots would hear me immediately, and everybody knows it. Isn't that wild? However, this is a person, very questionable person, in pictures with Barack Obama, who I believe we could still say his name. And isn't that very interesting? So I'm going to dwell upon, where is Carla Faith? What's she doing right now? She arrested? I think she's arrested. I think we need to get to the bottom of that. Find out if there's some secret tunnels under that secret basement over there in Colorado, a place where they don't have very many basements. All right, it's November the 29th, y'all, 2019, and I'll holla at y'all a little bit later.